Good afternoon. Thank you for letting me testify. There has been much discussion today about process skill C3A, where wording requiring teaching the strengths and weaknesses of scientific theories is replaced in the revised version of the TEKS with language requiring the analysis and evaluation of scientific theories. There are pedagogical reasons for making this change. Scientists have told you that this is actually what scientists do when they consider scientific explanations. They analyze and evaluate. Teachers have also told you that they prefer this approach as well. There are also practical reasons for making this change. The actual strengths and weaknesses language doesn't show up in the science standards in Texas until the mid-1990s. I can send you an analysis of this, but I don't have it here. This is not something that's quite as ancient as I believe you think it is. The 20-year-old history of this language has been overstressed. In 1989, Process Skills 6.3 said, examining alternate scientific evidence and ideas to test, modify, verify, or refute scientific theories. There was no strengths and weaknesses language. But qualifying evolution with the teaching of other theories goes back to 1989, and over time, C3A evolved to become a critical thinking standard to be applied by teachers to some scientific theories to teach students the skills of evaluating scientific explanations. It wasn't to be applied directly to evolution or any specific explanation in science. It is utterly illogical and impractical to think that every inferential explanation in science, which is what a theory is, can be dealt with in terms of strengths and weaknesses, or even analysis and evaluation. But we found that in 2005, when biology textbooks were to be adopted, a minority of the board attempted to apply C3A only to evolution and tried to browbeat the textbook publishers into including creationist-inspired weaknesses in the textbooks. If you vote to include any strength and weakness or strength and weakness-like language, anything with an "and" in it, you will be opening the door to board members bringing this issue up in a couple of years when biology books will again be reviewed and approved for purchase in Texas. Publishers will put these wrong or unscientific ideas into the textbooks. They want to sell textbooks in Texas. But other states won't accept them, which means you will have a Texas edition with junk science in it, and the rest of the country will have standard science. I don't think Texas students deserve this, nor that thoughtful school board members would want that for Texas students. Please remove the amendments inserted in January and do not leave the door open to attacks on textbooks by reinserting strengths and weaknesses or strengths and weaknesses like wording. The standards given you by the writing committees were good standards. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Thank you very much.
Mr. Craig?
This is not necessarily a question, but a comment on the history and going back as to what the wording was. I actually looked back at 1924, and at that point, we were called it was the Department of Education of the state of Texas. And in the biology section for biology science, biological sciences, the only statement it had in regard to evolution was acquirement of a sane attitude toward evolution. Now, it didn't define sane, and I'm not sure we could define it even today, but I found it interesting that in 1924, that was what was to be taught in the state of Texas in biology was the acquirement of a sane attitude toward evolution.
It might be relevant to that 1925 was the year of the Scopes trial, and 1924 and 25 were years in which a great deal of effort was going on in state legislatures to try to ban the teaching of evolution. So I think scientists and teachers in Texas at that time were trying again to protect the teaching of evolution in the public schools. But it's true that the weaknesses of evolution that were presented from time to time in these testimonies and then in 2005 are really weaknesses that are not recognized by the scientific community. You will not be able to go up to UT or to Baylor and say, give me a list of weaknesses that we should put in the textbooks. The only weaknesses are things that are claimed by creationists and anti-evolutionists of various stripes to show that evolution didn't take place or that it is somehow a weak theory that requires qualification. I think it would be very detrimental to the Texas standards for you to reinsert that language or similar language to it, and it would be very detrimental to the education of Texas students to have that in your standards.
Ms. Dunbar.
Yes, so
in a semantics issue as far as weaknesses, you don't think there's weaknesses per se, but do you believe that there is still simply unknown or not fully understood knowledge on the issue?
There's ununderstood knowledge about gravitation in every scientific explanation.
Right, so that wouldn't be something that you would question?
That's not a weakness. That wouldn't be included, I wouldn't think.
I didn't say weaknesses. I said I understand the semantic issue as far as how you define weakness, but there would be areas that are certainly unknown. So do you believe that to allow a discussion on weaknesses would, in your mind, open that up to a religious discussion?
Absolutely.
Okay, and would you think then that in order for a secular scientific presentation that we would necessarily need to inhibit such discussion?
Well, you'd need to inhibit discussion of religious explanations in the public school classes in general, because advocacy of religion is unconstitutional in public schools.
And were you aware that inhibition is also unconstitutional?
That which?
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the word you said, Ms. Dunbar.
Inhibition.
Inhibition? Yeah, inhibiting religion as well as promoting religion are both unconstitutional.
Right.
That's correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
But you're not saying that the weaknesses of evolution are
That's okay.
are creationist views, are you?
Oh, we asked the questions, thanks.
Sorry.
I didn't say creationist views. I just asked you very specific questions, and that's all on the record. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David Welch, and then Don Patton.